well-rounded students. And with that, I'd really like the board to consider adding the full-time positions of math interventionist and the dean of students into the budget. I think we've had some really good momentum with the last two budgets going through. So, I mean, I will be at the Board of Finance meetings to speak in favor of the budget. So.
Well, thank you for the support. Anyone else here?
I'll say a few words. Hello, I'm Martha Stene, 1 Brickyard Road. I have 2 children in school in Mary R. Fisher and a 2nd grader and a kindergartner. This is my first Board of Education meeting, so thank you for having me. I definitely want to echo Cheryl's comments. Anything that we can forecast in the budget in relation to, financing key positions for these students is very important to me as well. I would also like to encourage the Board of Education to continue support for our playground project. So we have our playground at the school for 1st grade through 4th grade is inoperable at the moment and has been since April of last year, to my knowledge. So my 2nd grader hasn't had an opportunity to play on her playground for the end of her school year last year and all of her school year this year. And just today was involved in a minor accident on the field because there's really no place for the students to play besides the field and the blacktop that's also in need of attention. So that's important to me, is ensuring that our students, current students and future generations have appropriate and safe places to play and exercise and release their energy so that they can be better learners. Thank you.
Thank you. And I just want to assure you that the entire board is on board with the playground and the positions. And we have been for a long time. It's up to the parents and the people that come out and support us, supporting you. It's all about getting out the vote. And you certainly have our support, but we need everybody who's going to go out to vote to support that too. Anybody else in the room? Anybody on Zoom have any comments? Hearing none, we'll move on to our superintendent.
And I'd like to echo the chairman's comments. We certainly believe that that playground should reopen. It is in the budget. We did come up with a compromise, a Band-Aid compromise, basically to create a 0.5 and a 0.5 position, half-time interventionist, half-time dean of students, or whatever we want to call it, using some grant monies that are anticipated next year. I mean, at the very least, that will get our foot in the door, unless, of course, the board decides to add it to the budget. But I think that's a good compromise. I spoke to both principals. We figured out a schedule. So it's kind of like the best of both worlds, at least to get it started. So I wanted you to know we didn't dismiss it. I certainly never dismissed it entirely. I just didn't know how we were going to fund it. But I do believe there might be alliance monies to at least get that one position. So that's my thoughts about it. Last meeting, the board had some questions for Mr. Steglitz, and he did some recalculation of the budget pages. So I'm going to turn it to him first, and then we'll take a look at the brief presentation that we started to put together.
Sure. So I believe, and I can go over the questions we had from our first budget meeting if necessary. I did go through those in the last one. I think most of those questions were answered in the version that's in front of you right now. The two changes that happened since our last budget meeting, you'll notice that the increase is up $5,000. That actually relates to a change in the actuarial assumption of the pension plan. And that brings us to a 2.27 mill rate impact. As Melinda mentioned, to get to Cheryl and Marcy's points, that the Dean of Students and Math Interventionist positions were not added to the budget because we're hoping to pay for those out of the Alliance grant. So those were not layered in here. The other change, if you dive into the departments, you'll see that some of the numbers on the department level have changed, and the major driver of that is I took another look at how historically we have split up the health insurance amount, which is a significant amount for the district. I think that last year's budget was something like $2.8 million. That was split using percentages last year, that as I did the work this year to look at how actuals line up for the 2024 budget, it made sense to me to split the 2023 budgets the same way. And that's been rolled in here so that you have a more accurate apples to apples comparison of the 2024 budget versus the 2023 budget. So probably the biggest change you'll notice on the pupil services line, the increase from year to year is now $768,000. Whereas last time we were at $913,000. The single driver of that change, of that improvement, if you will, is the fact that we had quite a bit of benefit money that was being put into the pupil services line. When you look at how it actually splits out based on the people and how they're assigned to the departments, this is a much more accurate look, and it matches up better. The total numbers haven't changed, so this is all allocation within. Right, the major shift was to elementary school based on the heads, and then there were minor puts and takes in the other schools. But I think this just gives us a more accurate look from year to year. So I'm going to be recording those as a budget transfer, so that for Monday's meeting, you'll also see that change so when we do the comparisons to actual. Okay. So not a heck of a lot to talk about there. It really boils down to, I got off the phone with the actuaries. So today there was a minor tweak to their assumptions for next year, which increased the budget by $5,000. And then just continuing to refine how we split, how we're kind of taking a look at everything really. And this is once again putting a finer point on those allocations.
We do have a meeting on Thursday too, right?
Yes, yep.
Okay.
Yep, so any changes that comes out of tonight's discussion, I'll work to get into this package for Thursday.
Okay.
Monday is the normal meeting, if I remember right.
Yeah.
So that analysis will be the actual year-to-date results.
Anybody have any questions for Bill? Very impressed, thank you.
So we started to put together a presentation. We know we want to keep it on the really focused side. There's also an error because now that Bill made that change as far as pupil services, one of the slides has to be edited with that new amount. But basically the beginning of the presentation is like any other year, lists the board members, obviously the board's mission, vision and mission statement, our administrative staff, and then of course the portrait of a graduate, this is how this budget was built. So that's all the same. Then getting to the budget drivers, that first line, that first amount should be $768,877 now. But really the increased costs in special education is the primary driver out of this budget. And so it's the out of district tuition, the transportation, and then the in-school contracted services. We talk about the funding clip, those grant positions that equal $208,610. Fuel and electricity that has gone up. Then Bill talked a lot about this, inflation on most goods, services, and supplies. And then, of course, just our salary increases per contract obligations bring us to the amount that we're requesting in this budget. We want to put in Chris's special education slide because we think it's pretty comprehensive. Obviously, we're not going to leave it in this PowerPoint format. We'll put a full page in so you can read it. It'll be too tiny.
Gonna say.
And then I felt compelled, and I don't know why it's this year out of any other year, but I just feel compelled to make a statement to the citizens that if you ask me to go back and make reductions, there is nothing to reduce. If we start to get into the budget and make reductions, I said it this last time, we're going to have to go at class sizes. And I took a look at that today. And we can certainly cut class sizes and cut a teacher at every grade level at Mary R. Fisher. And now you're going to have class sizes up to 25, 26 students when we have students that are the most neediest at this time in probably the history of education, right? And so it's the wrong thing to do. And it's not the proper thing for kids. And it will never get us to that $1.7 million. And so in good conscience, I have to, at least my message to the community is we need to maintain the services that we currently have and we need to appropriately budget for special education. That is this budget in a nutshell. And so I put in a slide. I don't know if the board wants me to keep that slide in there, but I just feel that that is going to be my message when somebody asks me that we've done a lot for the 6 years that I've been here. And we've moved positions around and we've cut positions, we've added positions, but we had to sacrifice something else. There's nothing else that if you looked at me and I've had Bill go through the budget, is there something that you see that we're not, that like I'm totally missing? He can't find it. So I don't know what to say at this point, except that we all need to advocate for maintaining the services that we have. We can't lose anything. Our children deserve it. And honestly, I don't see where we have excess staff. I just don't see it. So I just need to make that statement, and that's going to be my statement for this budget season, is that we need to maintain services for our students, given the fact that we do have students of need. When you look at Chris's population of special education students in 504, almost a quarter of our students need extra resources besides what we give to the gen ed public students. So I'm really passionate about this because I don't know where else to go. And you've been with me on the 6-year journey, and I bet you all don't know where else to look. But Bill has gone through every single salary, every single benefit line, and there usually sometimes there's some cushion in especially healthcare. Well, there isn't in this budget. It is actuals. It's for the people who are currently employed and who take X healthcare plan. So yeah, I just feel compelled about just getting out there and beating the drum, saying people have got to get behind this budget. So that's my statement there. And then we talked about doing a budget highlight for each department. So we took the 3 schools, and so there were a few things that we added in. Obviously, there is an upgrade and a replacement of some damaged Spanish textbooks that we need to add. Yes.
Sorry to interrupt. Can we say damaged 50-year-old Spanish textbooks?
Yes, we can. I'll put the year in.
Yeah.
I'll get the.
I remember
copyright.
that from one of our earlier meetings that they were ancient.
I
So,
think they're 1970.
well,
can find
circa 50, yeah, circa 1975.
I think so.
Just, yeah.
But it's not only that they're that old, right? It's just that the covers are wrong, the
They're a little
pages are wrecked. They're a mess.
Exactly.
Well used.
But they're well used. We got,
Got
the
their money's
district
worth.
got the
Their
money out of those
Yeah.
textbooks. Obviously, we need to do some NEAS prep because it's coming, and so there's reports and plans that they have to work on this summer. Obviously, we want to maintain all the programs in place at the high school, the middle school, and the elementary school. There are some required reading curriculum resources that we do have to add. It's not a big number, but we do have to add some of those curriculum resources at Mary R. Fisher. And then in special education, it's the same, and that number's going to change, Danielle. It's the same increase of out-of-district tuition, transportation, and contract services. Health services, basically, there's no budget increase there. We did put in that contingency that you mentioned last meeting, so there is a little money there.
Kathleen has a question.
Oh, sorry, Kathleen.
No, it's all right.
Okay, federal required, can we change that to mandated? Wouldn't that be a better word to use?
So we got, yes, there's no ands, ifs, or buts about it, either upgrade or you put in a waiver and, we are an opportunity district and we've figured out that we can get it covered, but it does need a few resources there. So yes, it is mandated.
And since just one moment, since I opened the meeting, I'd like to turn the meeting over to Mrs. Harper, who's here now, so.
Yeah, sorry, my agenda said 6 o'clock.
There was a revised one that went out shortly after.
Oh, okay, I missed it, sorry. I apologize.
I'm sorry
It's cool.
too.
I was here.
No, my calendar
but I
says
see.
5:30, but the agenda has at 6, so I apologize. Okay.
And so the
Yeah.
facilities and plant repair of the Mary R. Fisher Playground, and that did drop. Remember, we got that grant money, and who knows, maybe next month we'll find out we got the other grant and then we could take that out of the budget. That would be nice. Maintain our current 23 transportation budget for FY 24 because DADCO gave us a bid for flat this year, so there was no increase in transportation this year, but next year there will be a 5% increase. So I don't know if that line makes sense, but I was trying to maintain our budget for the FY 24 as part of the big bid package because it came in flat.
Right, and you should point that out.
Yeah,
now,
should highlight
because-
that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
no.
does that line, I looked at that line and I gotta we have to make sure that line, just the line in transportation reflects that flatness.
Yeah, because
It's not gonna be 100% flat because but it can't. The last time I looked at it, Bill, it went up 8%, and that's an incorrect number if you look at the contract.
Okay. I'll
Make
take a
sure that doesn't go up that 8%. Because that should just be the daytime and the
Midday run.
midday runs.
And especially.
The others are spread throughout. They're the athletic, they're the special education,
The summer school busing, the elite bus,
right?
yeah.
Okay, I think the other item that's in that in that number, which might be driving the increase, was the bus monitors.
Oh,
But
okay.
they're lower, aren't they?
I'd have to look.
Yeah, okay, all right,
Okay.
please look at that.
And then athletics, Deb's not asking for anything new. She just wants to maintain the programs in place. Technology, we want to maintain our Chromebook rotation in grades 5 and 8. And then curriculum, we just want to maintain the professional development activities and curriculum resources that we have in place. And some of the reading is going to be come out of the curriculum line as well. So we don't know at this point how much more we want to put into the presentation so that it doesn't, the numbers don't get lost. Bill and I talked about putting this packet as part of the whole presentation.
I think we did that before, just put it
Yes.
like an appendix
Mhm.
and just highlight all of the main items.
Do we want to actually put some numbers in the presentation? Or, because I know that just not a whole lot of numbers like we used to, but some of the basic numbers that are really driving the increase.
We did that at the beginning.
Did we?
Are the numbers
Like,
there?
I'm sorry, because I did miss some of this, but no, we did for here,
Yeah, that number's wrong. We gotta change it. now.
okay. All right,
We
well,
can-
then that's what I'm basically saying. Now, and I missed this part and I apologize again. Did we decide to put in that halftime assistant principal and the math person?
Not principal,
Well, assistant,
Dean
dean
of
of
students.
students, but I'd rather call him assistant principal.
oh, yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
an
that's,
assistant principal at
Disciplinary,
the high school and the math,
Intervention. So we didn't put it in the budget because I'm fairly confident that there'll be Alliance grant funding that can cover that, as long as the legislation affords us another 200,000. that split position can be put together as a whole, and there's enough money there that the culinary arts program won't be taking for next year. So that's my hope, is that.
But if your hope doesn't come true, I kind of want those positions in place. And let's put it in the budget in case your hope doesn't come true, or in case we have to cut something and your hope does come.
That'd be the only thing I could pull out.
Well, yeah,
Yeah, I don't have an issue putting it back in if that's what the board decides. I was just,
but we want the Board of Finance to know that we need those positions. This is a budget, a true budget of what the school actually needs to operate. That's my position.
Right, and to that point, we. As great as grant funding has been, we see we're now in a point where. We're in trouble because we've had positions that have been grant funded. It's great that we've been getting those grants, but I think. The town as a whole overall, not just the Board of Finance, needs to understand. Can't run a school based off of grants either, and they need to see what the actual cost is. They've kind of been blended to that for the last several years, and it's.
I mean, Bill made the point very well last meeting, that these are positions the school needs to run. I mean, we can't take up the director's time, the principal's time, running discipline all over the place. That's not his job.
well, it is his job.
Well,
It's part of his job, it's not full time.
No, not full time. I mean, he's got other things to do.
Right, if we need to, if we're going to move a step ahead, he can't be bogged down doing that.
Right.
And that goes for all our administrators.
That is
They-
true.
We need to get a step ahead everywhere.
Right, and in these, especially these times, to get ourselves back in line with where our schools need to be, given the pandemic and given the atmosphere and the health, the mental health of our students and getting them back on track, we need an assistant half-time and we need a math interventionist to help them get our scores up.
So are you proposing a full-time position for each?
No, if you think that we can get by with half-time each, if we could find somebody for half-time each, that's a problem too. You're gonna find a half-time person?
Well, we're hoping that we can find a full-time person that could fit the bill for both. So the schedule would be that the math interventionist is at the middle school until 10:30. And then from 10:30 till the end of the day, they go up to the high school and assist Dr. Mayo with the discipline.
And that person would exist?
Why don't we think about putting it in for full-time? And perhaps half of it in the budget, maybe half of it grant funded, if that comes.
Okay.
To
Put a full
fruition,
one in here.
yeah, yes,
Yeah.
let's put one in here, and maybe we can pay half of it out of a grant. And maybe.
Yeah, I would think that it'd be hard enough to find a math professional, math interventionist that would be capable of doing a job, and discipline is its own skill set, and
Yeah.
they're not necessarily the same person, and you would know better than I would, but it would seem like it'd be hard to find that unicorn.
Somebody in mind,
Oh.
but that's okay.
Right, but let's put a person in. Let's add a person.
Add a position. So do you want me to do 0.5 and 0.5?
Sure.
Yes.
I think that,
Yeah.
I think that makes sense.
And if that doesn't come about, at least we've got a person in there.
You know, I think one of the hardest things for me is, as much as we can put all this in, until we get people to understand from the outside what is acting, there's such a disconnect. People in the community that don't have any children or any staff connected to the school are very much out of touch.
Yeah.
And we can put all these positions in that we want, but how do we get people to understand that the need so exists? Because in your school community, you're not living 10 years ago. You're living in a very different state. And I know we have to do it through the parents have to be the bulk of that. But it's so hard to get this community, which is generationally connected, but they're connected in the fact that they live and may not have the connections to the school. And that's the biggest thing for me is the interpersonal connection that the need exists severely. And how do we get people to understand that these are not positions that we're pulling out of a hat? They are truly needed.
So today at the high school, I know for a fact that 7 students were suspended for a variety of disciplinary infractions, right? That's just at the high school. I haven't touched base with the middle school today. I mean, I did have Kim in my office for her mid-year check-in, but you know, that 7 at the high school. And that requires a lot of paperwork, especially if it's a complaint of bullying, right? There's a full investigation that has to happen associated with that. And so it is cumbersome. And unless you're part of the board, or you're a Board of Finance member who comes to every meeting and understands what's happening, it is hard for people to understand that, and throwing money at a problem isn't always the solution, but the problem in education is that to fix things, you need human capital, and human capital comes with a price tag. And that really is the truth. We need to support the students with more wraparound services. Those 2 positions are critical. That's why I told the principals to come and let you know about them. I took them out of the budget because I just felt like I couldn't add to an already high budget increase. But they are valuable positions that we're going to need to have here.
You know, it's not just solely our school. I mean, all these schools are having similar things, but I think for me, Dr. Mayo's numbers, the last meeting regarding the discipline and, you know, from 15 to the 41, it is a huge eye opener. Like, there's some serious things that need attention. How do we get that human connection to understand that these are positions that are needed?
Well, I think we start with our parent groups, and I know our Marriott Fisher PTO is, 2 of these women are from the PTO, but they've been pretty involved coming to Board of Finance meetings and trying to be out there. I'm trying to reach out to the middle school tomorrow, to kind of get some support from our families. Who else is going to do it? So.
They're not, and that's a problem we've had since day one of school boards, getting the involvement. People don't understand. They don't understand special ed. They say, well, why are you sending that child out of district? Well, it's the law. It's the thing. It's what we got to do. People don't understand those kind of things. We're a very people intense organization. We can't get machines and robots to do the job. We need people in here. But Mr. Herbert had a very good point last week that we're going to need to address because it's going to come up. Since we're a low achieving, I don't want to say, you know, and it's difficult to justify raises and bonuses and people when we're not achieving. I think we need really to explain to the general public where we are with the 25%, you know, student body who get services, and what's our plan to fix it. You got to have a plan, and you have to explain that plan to the people that will listen. Not everyone's going to listen, but we need to bring that and bring it to the Board of Finance. We know we have board members on the Board of Finance who think they know how to run the school, and things have changed over 30 years. But we really need to have a business plan on how what our plan is to fix this.
So there is a plan that's part of the Opportunity District work, very focused on ELA and math. And so I'm just busy doing another report for them. They come out for a monitoring visit on March 9th. We're highly supervised by the Department of Ed. You know, I just looked at NEWA scores. We've made some nice gains in NEWA scores. Those are authentic assessments here in the district. It's not a state assessment, but to see the needle move on those is pretty promising. I think all our teachers are working hard. They're implementing a new curriculum this year. We revised the curriculum KA in 3 of the 4 core areas. They're implementing a new curriculum, which is cumbersome the first year when you're doing that. they're doing interim assessments at the middle school in grades 5 through 8. Kim just went over that when I met with her for her evaluation today. The work they're doing is right where it needs to be. It just doesn't, we don't flip a switch. It takes 3 to 5 years to make improvements around student achievement, right? So they're moving the needle. I'm glad to see what they're doing and especially the elementary schools. Some of the newer scores jumped up significantly in certain grade levels. So you gotta find out from those teachers, what exactly have you been doing to make that happen, right? And those meetings are happening on a regular basis where they were happening, but they weren't as formal before. So now they're pretty formal. So there is a plan. And there is a focus, and we are working toward that. It's going to take us some time to get out of this hole, and I still don't believe, that those scores that put us in the opportunity district were from 17-18. And when you really tease out that data, it was all about attendance, right? And we know at that time the attendance data keeping in the district wasn't great, right? It was spotty at best, and so now there's a better system to. We get a data manager now who monitors all of that. So we know our numbers that go into the reports to the state are accurate. But we got dinged from 17-18 attendance scores and achievement scores. We don't trail the state average by that much. And Kim came and did that overview of our assessments, and we are making growth. I had a university student call me about 3 weeks ago and said, Mrs. Smith, I'm doing a paper and it seems like your SBAC test scores went up when everybody else's went down. Can you talk about that? Sure, and we were able to talk about that, about how we were in most of that year of 2021. And there was a lot of variables as to why. Our teacher attendance was phenomenal. So, we are making strides and there is a plan and we're trying to execute that plan. But it doesn't feel good to any of us that we're labeled with that opportunity label. None of us feel good about it. You ask a teacher and it's kind of breaks your back as far as morale when they're working so hard. But we do have a plan and it's pretty focused. And I hope to see the results on the other end. But it is hard to sell it to people.
Maybe that plan could be summarized so that, and just in a small thing, because we need everyone to know that the whole school is working hard. And we can't go backwards. We're making little gains. And we have to continue that. And any cuts is just going to make that suffer.
And letting them know too that the scores are from 17-18. Some of those students don't even go to the school anymore. So, like how old that data is and probably inaccurate that data is. It's not of importance now in the sense of like, it's a whole different group of kids.
It is.
So I think we need to let them know that this is data from 17-18. All the strides that you guys have been making since then. And, we need to invest in, and I would also probably find out too, what the budget was cut in 17-18 as well. If there was any cuts made, it was.
So
If we already started underfunded, that would have been part of what was going.
Oh, we've
So-
been underfunded.
right,
for-
so-
Yeah.
this 2.27 mil increase on this budget. Every year that I've been either on board or following this, I've been following this for 10 years now or so. Every year it's gotta be flat. So, and every year that it's flat is actually negative because of inflation.
Right, yep.
And we have that graph somewhere. That I think that would be important to put in here. I don't want to bog this presentation down, but that graph is huge.
Yep. We have
And
that
if we can put that in there, and so every year, so this 2.27 increase doesn't even cover
Right.
all the negatives, and all those negatives are what part of a significant reason what got us into this position.
Exactly.
And we know that sitting
Yeah.
here and out there. How do we get that? And I personally think that the town is fairly evenly split. It depends who shows up to vote on that
Mhm.
particular day.
Mhm.
However, the Board of Finance is not evenly split.
Right.
And that is the biggest problem, to have the Board of Finance just say,
Right, chop it
oh,
before it
all right,
even
cut
gets to a vote.
$100,000 because I want to. And that's what we have to educate them about. I don't know how to educate people that don't want to open their ears.
Or their pockets.
But that's where the parent voice and the townspeople voice, it's really hard to say chop stuff up when people are staring at you
Right.
saying, please don't do
They
that.
do
Right.
it, though. Every year,
They do it every year.
we all go and you hear the student please, you hear the parent
Please.
please, you hear this, the administrative please to the Board of Finance, and it's just, yeah, okay, make it 75 instead of 100, like, or 200 instead of, 250. So it's really, how do we,
Well, maybe even like just this past referendum, how they kind of washed their hands of it a little bit and said, let the town decide. Let's let the town decide on this too,
Yep.
you know?
That's the way it should be. Like,
Right.
it should be their job to figure out how to finance, how to do this and that, but not to make the decision on what's gonna be put forward.
Right.
It's wrong. It's just not wrong. And I said it last time I was at that meeting and I shouldn't go back again, but I said, everything dies right here. Every good idea that is brought to you, a lot of committees and boards do a lot of work. This isn't just numbers they pull out of the air, and it dies right here because you don't even consider it. And that's what happens year after year after year. And they flat fund it, and like Matt says, it's actually a decrease because of contracts, because of everything. And it's, Amy made that comment when we were in the auditorium. That because that is their conscious thing is to flat fund it, everything goes backwards, nothing will ever improve in this town.
Mhm.
And somehow, I don't know. Somewhere in the world, if there's the charge for the Board of Finance, what they're supposed to be doing. But I'm sure it doesn't say flat fund the budget year after
Right.
year after year.
Sure, it says something about, put forward a budget that is reasonable and necessary to run your town.
Right, and I'd like to see that in print somewhere, so that
Right.
we could show.
Do they have
Last
the
year.
bylaws printed out? So Putnam last year did their vote no too low. However, they have their budget is still bifurcated. So they have the option to state if you vote no, or was it too high or too low? So they had their campaign to do that. We would have to add
Right, so
to the referendum. I've asked about it.
Yeah.
And the thought was they don't feel that those additional questions get enough attention where people actually pay attention and use them.
well, what I'm thinking is maybe we should do an exit poll with the vote no, too low, or vote high, well, it's like, there's gotta be
done-
something where we can bring back to the Board of Finance, like this budget isn't responsible, if we don't support it. Because you took the money out, you need to put it back in.
They've tried to do like the exit poll before.
Yeah.
The issue is it was like a QR code on an iPad, which
And nobody did it.
the part
Yeah.
of our residents just, they don't
Right.
want to do that.
Yep.
In regards to what happened in that 2017-2018 school year, the prior Board of Finance year, the 2016 referendum, they cut $795,000 out of the school budget.
Well, bingo, right there. There you go.
thank you, Jessica.
Posting that in every lawn.
Well, if
That
you
is-
look back, right, prior to me coming to Thompson, there were support services in the district, but I think every year the Board of Ed kept classroom teachers in class sizes, which is the smart thing to do, but then started to have to take away those necessary positions. But then what happened was the social emotional needs of the students started to escalate.
Right.
And then we were trying to figure out, okay, how are we gonna get a social worker at the elementary? Well, we're gonna move this one here and that one there, and we'll get away with this position here. And so that's how we've been managing the budget, or at least all these years that I've been here. But things had to give. And I can rattle off how many teachers we've let go since I've been here. It's quite a few. And so electives at the high school aren't as plentiful as they used to be. So there's a lot of harm that happened along the way. But if our parents come out to the Board of Finance meetings, because if they're the gatekeeper, then the place to be is to voice your concern with that group of people.
There has not been a significant increase in 23 years.
Right.
Blake was just born when they did that. It's 23 years. And since then, it's been pretty much flat funded. 23 years.
So I have a question. I sent that survey that the Woodstock, did you guys get that? I sent by email. I don't know if it didn't go through, but it was a Woodstock is doing a survey right now to their townsfolk to basically weigh in on their education budget. And also, you know, their whole Prop 46 and all that kind of stuff that they've got going on. And my thought was, maybe we do some, I don't know if that's for this year or maybe that's for future years, but my thought is that if we did do a survey that is put out to the town, put on the town website, put out to the parents and got a survey, like I copied and pasted it so we could see what they were asking specifically, which I thought were really good questions, you know, that could then be presented to the Board of Finance to say, listen, 75% of the people who took this thing, which was 700 people or whoever, how many numbers, want this, you know, so to have at least data and a number, you know, that we could kind of say that it's not just the Board of Ed, it's not just the 5 people that are here at the Board of Finance meeting. 700 people have weighed in. They want this in the budget. You know, I don't know if that has any weight, you know, to their decision making. And it also may help guide us as to what the district is wanting, you know?
But they certainly could not ignore it if you
Right.
brought them that. They
Right,
couldn't ignore it.
right.
They may not act on it, but it's right in front of them.
Yeah, so I did email it, I thought, to the group, but if I'll check my email, maybe it didn't
Did it
go
come
through.
today?
I sent it like a day or two ago.
I don't think so.
Okay, all right, I'll look again and I'll send it, but I clicked on their survey to, I didn't do it. but I copied and pasted it, and then threw it in the email and sent it to you guys, so you could see what the questions were. But-
Look, we could do that survey monkey thing.
Yeah, that's what it is
And
basically.
we could do that, and if just the parents came out of our students and voted. If they voted positively, that would be enough to pass almost any budget.
Exactly, that's,
So maybe we could, I think that's a good idea.
yeah.
You know,
I
how do
think
you
that
feel
makes it
about
nice.
our school and what's going on?
Yeah.
We could.
We did a
perhaps-
climate survey. We do have the data from that, but this is different.
Yeah.
Yeah,
is
this was
more-
specific about curriculum, it was specific about activities, specific about, you know, what things that, you know, they valued and they had to prioritize. If budgets were to be cut, what do you feel is a priority? Is it, you know, athletics? Is it extracurricular? Is it whatever? It's very specific. But I'll find it and I'll send it again if I screwed that up.
We can put something together like that. Do you want it community based or do you want it
I
just?
think it
school
could be,
department?
yeah, it could be sent, put on the town website. It could be put on, you know, sent through the channels that you do for the parents for that.
I think we get a lot of support from relatives, aunts, uncles, grandparents,
Mhm.
but there's other people that just don't care. But maybe they need to be educated, but
Mm.
you know, maybe if this gets out there, maybe 10 more people will come and vote, maybe.
I think when you send the link to the text, I get the best response
Sure.
too. Because people will click on it on their phone and
I
do
think
it.
that's a great idea.
Okay. So Heather, I'll draft it,
Yeah.
send it to you and Kathleen.
Yeah, I'll send you the whole thing that Woodstock did, because it was. You could copy and edit, you know what I mean, kind of thing. Yeah, yes. No, it had good data in it, I guess is my point.
Well, and I also see a lot of districts with particularly discipline, but they're doing, and I think you do them for your Department of Education, the community, family and community roundtable discussions. Where you get key people within the community and you start to engage in dialogue. You know, maybe as the results of what Heather gets for the surveys, we can then start targeting some of the people we're not reaching.
I think too, it's in our town, we just have people that are just viewed on, that's their view, like they're not gonna change. Whether we can give you all the information in the world, we're not, they're gonna vote
The
no.
creatures
just-
of habit.
Yeah, it's just creatures that have it. It's just, we have to tap into the non-voters. That's like who we have to get it to. Cause that's what kills any budget. I mean, you see it when only 16% of your town is voting for the town's budget, like that's insane.
Because a lot of them have
Right.
misinformation. That's the
Exactly.
biggest driver, I think, is the few seeds that plant those cancers, misinformation. When you have non-factual information and you just take it and run with it, there's a lot of people that believe in non-factual information.
Right.
If you're based on a facts-based person, you got the
Right.
facts, but you
So-
got to present the facts too.
Right, so then we're trying to tap two voters, but then we're restricted as to what we can say or not say to the school, because we've had somebody on the Board of Finance years ago reach out to the state and get the school in trouble for basically saying that we had, done something wrong and letting parents know to vote. So we're restricted on what we can directly let parents know. So it's more of like, we really have to tap into our PTOs, our parent groups, just reaching out to any Thompson voter, like I do a chain link thing where I just send it out, hey, today's vote, hope you can go out and vote. And that's been really productive, and people copy paste. Like, it's just letting know your aunts, uncles, grandparents, everybody that you know that lives in Thompson, don't forget to vote. And I have to say, knock on wood, we've made some serious headway, because we haven't not passed a referendum yet in years, a few years now, like what, 2? So we're making headway. We just got to continue the momentum and getting people out to vote. So I think where our energy needs to go is presenting the budget, how we are. I think it looks great, and getting people out to vote. Like, first, we got to get to the Board of Finance. That's step number 1.
Right, well, we need to get people in those Board of Finance meetings,
Meetings.
telling them
Right.
what they need to actually hear.
Here. And
Rather
then,
than just being in their own echo chamber.
right, and then once we get the number from them and the date of the referendum, we're pushing that, like, you get out and you vote, you're messaging every time person you know that lives in Thompson, get out and vote. And that's just what we have to do, and it just has to be habit. And I think we've done a great job, and it is tapping into those that just, oh, I forgot, or oh, I didn't, you can't forget, that's your responsibility, civic
You
responsibility.
know, there's gonna be 600 that are gonna vote no. So
Right. We need to have 601.
601.
Yep, that's all we need.
But we'll work on that. I think that's a good idea. We can gather all the information we want,
Mhm.
right? So.
Right.
I mean, we're
But
not
the first
violating
step
it by
is
gathering
to-
information.
Get to the Board of Finance to prevent them, stop them from cutting this budget,
Mhm.
put it out to the people,
Exactly.
let them have their voice. So that one means that at the presentation, we fill that auditorium. At the town meeting, we fill that auditorium. At every workshop, we fill whatever, wherever they have their workshops now, it'll probably be at the Senate room. We fill that room and have people speaking in favor of the budget.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
if there aren't people there,
Right.
they're just gonna do their own narrow-minded, same old attitude. We gotta cut the budget and get a $500,000 increase. And then the people don't have their say.
And then they get a stay for the whole meeting, because a few years ago, as soon as people left, then they said, okay, let's cut the budget.
Right,
$100,000.
right, but that's what we gotta do. We've got to change their attitude. That's gonna be a difficult task.
And letting them know what their positions are as a group. It is to listen to the people, and they say that, but I'm like, what people are you listening to? Because the people at the meetings are telling you not to cut the budget, and yet you still have cut the budget.
Yeah, I know.
So it's
And
like,
that happened in 2020,
Yeah,
Yep.
Yeah,
when they were-
850,000.
right.
when people said.
And we
want
had
this,"
that-
And they cut it
But-
anyway.
Right, because they
And
said
we had-
COVID, and now it's because of inflation, the cost of eggs. Now we can't, you know what I mean? Like, there's gonna be something every year.
Yeah.
We have a group, and Mr. Herbert, I appreciate everything you do. I do. But we have a group of people that sit on this board that are financially responsible, like they're the financial gurus of the town, supposedly. And yet they no investment in the most expensive part of the town, the school. Like, this is what we spend most of our money, because that's And yet they have no interest. They could care less, but they'll listen to you talk about a plow truck for an hour and, go over that. But they could care less about the millions they're spending in the school system.
And the thing is, the
Yeah.
first thing, after they've talked about this plow truck for an hour,
Yeah,
they go out to lease it, so it costs us $30,000 more.
exactly. So, they're hemming and hawing at the wrong stops, but it's like, we need to let them know that this is where the importance is, and this is where they need to put their attention to. And they might not be vetted in it, but we need to hold them accountable to being vetted to it. And I think that's just time, it's just time. I think times are different, we have people set in their ways. Well, you know what? You got a lot of other people set in their ways too, and we're invested in this school and we want to see the best for the school.
When people go out to Zillow, when people go out to any of those websites, when industry goes out to look for places to invest or put their, put their little stores and maybe a small warehousing facility and it's a good place to put a small warehouse. We have a railroad track. We have, we have land. They look at the schools because they want their employees to live here. Well, and we're very close to Worcester. We're very close to Providence. We're an ideal location. And yes, there has been some building here. But when you look at the school and you look at Woodstock, where are you gonna live?
Right.
Where are you gonna build? And it's a sad thing to say. Until we get this school turned around, you have to invest in the town. Or you're not going to attract the businesses that we want to live here.
That we as a town are obligated to provide a quality education.
Yes, we
experience to our
are.
Kids, you know what I
That is
mean?
the number
It's
one
our obligation
duty.
as a community.
Yes.
It's like, I think people, at least online, I read, it's like, they want to wash their hands of this,
Right.
and it's like, you can't do that.
No.
So,
Or we'll never bring this town back to
Right.
life. This is the number one duty of all the citizens of a town, is to provide provide a school for the children of the town. That's a society. That's what society is. If you don't want to live in society, go live off the grid in northern Maine or Alaska.
You'll still
or
be paying for
someplace.
some school system too.
Yeah.
Especially last Saturday, have a ball. But anyway.
So the things that we're gonna add is somehow summarize in slides about the current state of the classification of the school district. Then we are gonna put some graphs in around the budget decreases or the small incremental increases that were made along the way. And we do have those slides, so we might just need to update it. Take a look at that survey, see if we can put something out to our families.
yeah,
and
just email
community.
it to everybody, so you should have it. I know.
We could probably put something in the shopper's guide and just ask for feedback like we did with the portrait of a graduate. Put the
Yeah.
link in the shopper's guide and then the community could respond.
I will
I think
say,
that's a good idea for
um,
those who don't get these.
however we do the survey, and I don't know if there's a way to qualify this, because like, Woodstock put theirs out on Facebook and Winnie was posting it, and I could click on it and I could probably answer it too,
I know.
I don't know if there's a way to make sure that it's
Just
Thompson
residents.
folks are doing it, you know what I'm
And
saying?
maybe they can only do it once,
Or-
because we don't
Yeah.
want people.
Correct,
doing
that's
it
what I'm worried
17
about.
times.
Or maybe provide your address at the bottom, or
Yeah,
something,
that would
I don't
be-
know, it's like maybe not have it be unanimous, anonymous, it needs to be.
Yeah.
With
Right.
a name, just so that we can
Or
qualify.
email address.
Yeah, you can isolate it to just respond to one device, but it doesn't mean you can't go on your laptop. and
Right,
do it.
Right.
so that was my, like, I could have responded to the Woodstock one, because it
Right.
allowed me to get into it, so
Yeah,
that
it's
was, that's
hard.
my only caution, because I don't know how to.
You can just say, name your address and. Okay. We'll work on that. Bill, I don't know if there's anything else that you want to, so we need to modify this one more time.
Yep.
And
We'll
add
add in
those
the staff
positions.
positions. Word on the Spanish books is they were bought in 2000.
No,
It's 23 years old.
Oh, my
God,
God.
that's like new.
Right.
Language hasn't changed that much.
Well,
The Spanish teacher shared a couple of pictures of particularly dated pages in there. Where they talk about DVDs and VCRs and things like that. She enjoyed the fact that you guys were talking about it. Actually, I think she's on there.
It is.
I'll take one to the next Board of Finance meeting if she wants to pass it along. I'll happily.
Well, I'm sure some
Put that on
people
the
will have
table.
answers for how to fix those or
We could
make
just-
them.
well, Spanish
Thousand
has
Take a
23
picture of
ready.
something different and flip it over, right?
Right.
just language has.
Yes, because we just have to open windows.
So I have just a comment on the budget drivers thing, where it says fuel and electricity. The number that Bill has put for our fuel and electricity is based on what he knows today
We locked in for it though.
for the whole fiscal year.
Yes. We locked in for the rest of 2023 and 2024, both at the town and at the school.
Okay.
Right now, that looks like a good decision. I certainly hope that, and you look at how things are trending everywhere.
Right.
And hopefully that'll prove out to be a good decision, but as of right now, it is. So we do have good numbers, a good
Okay.
rate for fuel anyway.
How much a gallon is that again?
I would have to get back to you on
Okay.
that.
That's okay.
360. That's pretty good.
There's the different fuels too. There's diesel.
That's right.
Yeah,
I think gas was 302. Diesel was just under 360, but please don't quote me on that because I'm going off the top of my head, but I can get that for you.
okay, well, the Board of Finance will want to know that.
And last year, the health insurance was a budget driver. Is it not one this year?
So I can explain that we actually talked about it in the first budget meeting. When we changed the method of how we calculated it, in the past, what we had done was we would take the prior year's budget and we would increase the budget for health insurance by the percentage that the broker gave us. What we did this year is we actually mapped each employee.
Oh, that's right. You
And
did
the
say,
type- right,
with
and the
whether they
type
were
of
single, a family or whatever.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
So it's actual.
So in doing that, we actually drove, it's a bad word, but some cushion out of the budget. One thing I would like to remind the board is that although in past years, that cushion was in the budget and it was needed in every single year.
Mhm.
So that's really how the discussion of adding in a contingency account came in.
Mhm.
My professional opinion of that contingency account is that it's modest.
That
However,
was
at
my
least it's in
thought.
there.
Right.
Which is a step in the right direction. But yes, so because of the change in the calculation of benefits, we actually, health insurance was not a driver from one budget to the other budget.
Even with the increase.
Right, which initially we had projected a 10% increase, which was the number that the broker had given us. Michelle from HR had helped us get that number. And we had decided or the board had decided to go with a 12% increase because in the past, unfortunately, the number that we've received from the broker proved to be a little bit low. So given the climate right now, I think the decision was made to go with 12%. So that's what's built into the model right now is a 12% increase, but on the existing actual decisions and elections, if you will, of each of the employees. That does leave, by budgeting that precisely, it does leave you open to shifts in mix, for example, where single folks get married and now they're on a family plan.
Right. or
That
something.
might not sound too
Right.
exciting, but that's the difference between $10,000 and $30,000
Right.
in budget cost in a year. So boy, can it add up in a hurry.
Yeah.
Now, it can go the other way too. Folks can come off our health insurance or a seasoned teacher might retire and we may hire a single person. So there's the opportunity it could go the other way. But
So we can't ask the teachers to not reproduce.
No, but that's off the table.
Yeah, and we've heard of no retirements except for our secretary this year,
Right.
so. Usually by now, you've heard that 2 or 3 teachers are gonna retire. We haven't heard anything.
But then again, the teacher can leave at the end of the year.
Right.
Just that kind of stuff. So.
Summer is always fun, a lot of moving pieces.
Mhm.
So when is the first Board of Finance meeting? I know I'm behind the 8 ball on this one.
Like for budget
yeah.
discussion, hold on.
May 2nd is the, March 2nd.
March
is-
2nd is
second
when
is
we
the
do the
presentation.
presentation.
And then I guess it's every Thursday after that,
I believe so, yeah.
except for their regular meeting.
Their next
So-
regular meeting is
So-
16th for anybody who's interested.
So Josh, you're gonna pull the numbers about the 2016 referendum, right? Because
You want, what do you want for numbers? You want,
just what was cut, because
Okay.
then we can put a direct correlation to the
That's
drop
the
in the
700 and-
2018 numbers. My other, and then the other thing that I think we need to drive forward too is that we've been running in a deficit past, what, 2 years? Like, we've had to go back and ask for money
Last year.
last year and then this year.
2 years before that.
2 years before that, we
So we can-
possibly won't have to ask this year.
Right, it's
As of
it's
now-
still early yet, we'll have another look at the numbers, but thinking back to the last time we spoke. I mean, we were just under budget,
All right,
and that, that is, of course, you've got the accuracy of encumbrances that come into play there, and
right.
so.
So it's tight.
It's gonna be very tight,
Tight.
yes.
So we're running either on a tight budget or we're running over. So we need to really drill that into the Board of Finance that you're not properly funding us because we're always having to ask you for money or we're walking on this tightrope. So I think we need to give them a little bit of financial understanding in the sense that like your equation or your formula is just not working.
Well, I also think, I
So-
just sent to Melinda the statute for the requirements of the Board of Ed, which is really tied into what we need to supply our students with the best education, and a lot of it references quality books, all this stuff.
Right.
And we might want to put a few bullets as a Board of Ed, we have, and I sent that to you, Melinda, you
Yeah, I
can take a
saw
look
it.
at it, but we have obligations to our community that has young children coming through our school districts. And if you're not providing the funds as the Board of Finance, we can't do what we are elected to do either.
Right.
So those have some really good points in there as to specifically what the state requires us as a Board of Education to do. But we can only do it if we're funded appropriately to do it.
Good
So,
point. Very good point, Bill. Because it's absolutely correct. That's what we're hired to do, is to provide the best education that we can. Now, they're going to turn around and say, well, this is the money, do what you can with it, but
We have to provide a free and appropriate
yeah.
education, and that includes special ed,
Mhm.
because we're legally bound by that.
Bill, that clause is exactly what you just said. The special ed is a clause within that too. You have, and it tells that right in that statute. So it's not anything people can just poo-poo, like you said, oh, we can't do it because we just don't have the money to do it. We have to do it. We're required by law.
That's the kind of thing that should be right on one of these pages. This is what we're
This is the,
required to
this is
do.
the wording right there.
This is our,
Right.
this is our charge. We're agents of the
I
state.
like that.
We're the arm of the
Custodial agents.
education department.
And the sad thing is that we do say this every year, but you just skip the special education page and they're like, oh, no, we're gonna go to the next one, like I'm just like, what numbers are you reading? I don't know. My frustrations boil over this time of year.
I think because the board has done a good job.
Yeah.
Playing the shell game of shifting things around to make the budget work. At the expense of programs.
Education.
Yeah, I mean, things suffer when that happens because we needed to squeak by. We were lucky the year that we had unexpended funds. because of the grant money. So we were fortunate that year, but every other year we've come in either neck and neck to the very end of the budget, or we've created a deficit. And I don't think anyone really understood that, we weren't budgeting appropriately for some of the costs, especially the in-house contracted services. We were not budgeting appropriately for that. And I don't know what else to say. Our per pupil expenses are higher than some of our the districts in our region, but the percentage of students with need, right? Not only special education, but students who need extra reading support, the Title I kids, those don't fall under any ed plan, right? They have a reading disability, they're below grade level. There's a whole host of those students that we've got extra resources for, that we have to provide FAPE to. And that's not captured even under the umbrella of special ed, so.
Even cheated, I hate to say it, but even cheated, I've seen it a lot of years. I know Jody Houghton was a big proponent of it. The kids on the other end, the kids that are the achievers, they lose out too. Because we're not providing them the catalyst for them to move forward. We're stagnating them, I think, in a lot of things. And it's very difficult for them to want to maintain themselves in a school district that isn't helping them achieve a level. And we all achieve at different levels, let's face it. We want to try to do the best for everyone, but I think we often forget about the kids that are the achievers, because we always say in life, they'll be fine. Right? We want to give them some things too, like we used to have the gifted, talented, or whatever. And I know it's very difficult with what we get for funds, but to equally put things through, sometimes I think those kids can lose out as well.
I'm not gonna say that we neglect.
I agree. The highest achieving students are gonna get bored, but they're the ones that are gonna be offered the scholarships to go to Pomfret, to go to Marinopolis, to go elsewhere, and they're gonna jump at it because then they'll be challenged and or accepted in. So a lot of times that's what happens.
Yep.
The private schools rob our best and brightest students.
That's true.
And that's wrong too, but I just want to read something that was just sent to me. The Board of Finance does not have the power by refusing to make an estimate to disable town or officers from performing statutory duty or exercising discretion. So I don't know what that means, but that is. That is 103C, section 424 of the Board of Finance, pertaining to the Board of Finance, so.
Sounds to me like the Board of Finance can't make us do our jobs with one hand tied behind us.
Something like that.
Just kind of what they're doing.
We'll have to get that interpreted.
Somehow, yes, yes.
So I think.
But know that we're not neglecting that group. We have more AP classes than we ever had. Kids can take any AP class they want on virtual high school. We're giving kids in 8th grade the opportunity to take high school classes for credit. That didn't cost any money. We also offer lots of college classes here. And they can take a whole host of QVCC courses for credit, UConn classes for credit. So I think we've got a good focus on that, and some of it didn't cost the district any money. We just needed to go out and get those resources. So we are working on it. But do I agree with you that just traditionally that group of kids are the ones that, well, if we're going to make reductions, right, we're going to take it on gen ed, and we're going to certainly take it out of some maybe additional extracurricular programs that might even enhance the learning for those students. But I don't want to say that we've been neglectful, because I think we've been keeping our eye on that ball along the way, especially up at the high school.
But that doesn't happen to high school. We're talking maybe in the middle
Elementary.
school, and in the elementary school, you've got,
Where it starts.
above average students that are being just moved along with the with regular, and they get bored.
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
That can happen.
I mean, they can read 3 grades above level, and they're still in the same grade reading with.
Correct.
Right.
Correct.
Another issue we've had, not so much, started 20 years ago, is every year the Board of Finance would take interest, about $100,000 from the Turtle Law Trust, and put it into our budget. So when that stopped,
Mhm.
they never made up that $100,000, and then by cutting us, it's just been downhill.
Right.
I mean, even worse since then, because that wasn't the idea of the trust was not to supplement the Board of Education, but that's what they used it for. Not that anybody was wrong, but it
Yeah.
was not correct.
Mhm.
And so when they stopped that, then we started $100,000 in the hole. I think it was about $100,000 they gave us every year. So we started really poorly. But that didn't help, but now that's safe.
And I hate to mention the B word, but I'm going to. The whole bus controversy also.
And we've shouldered that entire burden. And they get the rent.
One of the reasons I don't want to show an 8% increase in that line. If we don't have to.
Well,
That'll,
Yeah, that'll definitely.
Yeah.
You can go for it.
Oh, at this point, I need to leave.
Okay.
And I think when does your event,
7 o'clock.
yeah.
Oh,
we're
yeah,
gonna-
Getting.
may we make a motion to it?
Yeah.
The agenda's another citizens comments.
Okay. You need to ask for that?
But, oh, yeah, okay, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
No.
Oh, citizens comment, I don't know where. Where are we?
Oh, Vincent, behold.
I appreciate the enthusiasm here. But I'm very worried because I've seen it at the Board of Finance meetings in the past where there's been an action pleas to help the Board of Ed get what it needs
Yep, and they,
and basically ignore
yeah,
it.
yeah, it's.
I don't know what the opposite of cautious optimism is, but that's kind of how I feel in all honesty. You're gonna have to scream and yell and have to
Kick.
do it, but you really gotta make the impression because I just see going through this and saying, our plan this year is to raise no more than a quarter of a bill.
Mhm.
And, you know, if the Board of Finance takes that approach.
It's bad.
And I don't agree with it, but I almost can guarantee that's what we're gonna see.
So I think as a parents group, our slogan needs to be underfund our school, undervalue our children's education. So that's what they're doing. They're undervaluing our kids' education.
I just,
Yeah.
and I've seen it for the years I've been on
Yeah.
the board, those of you who
Yeah.
participate or been to those Board of Finance. I've seen the same thing,
Mhm.
passion please.
Yeah.
Ignore it.
Right.
I don't know
Show up in
what it's gonna
t-shirts,
take,
whatever it is.
something's gonna happen,
Yeah, I know, I agree right now.
you know. you gotta take
Way
care
to
of
go
it.
all the time.
Make the motion.
Any citizens comment?
Yeah, students come.
One of the
From
board
the
members
Zoom audience.
rolling his eyes and throwing his hands up as the kids were talking. It's the same thing.
Then I will
Put that
make a
slate
motion to adjourn. Linda's halfway out of her seat.
All second it. Thank you, sorry. All right, Heather, I have to check.
So, oh, thank you. I forgot about it.
Case, I'll take it.
Kathleen,
Yeah.
I'm going to Indiana, so I'm not.
Um,
gonna be around Thursday.
Do you know, I do believe, are you using the t-shirt? I didn't get it. Are you doing the t-shirt game as well? So there you go, you get to see that. That was a bit bulkier than what I was expecting for a t-shirt kit. It's
It is what we have.
like, don't look like